it's not easy to understand why stocks go up and down. But even in volatile markets, there's always a discoverable and logical reason behind price action. StoryTrading is a social investing community of investors who share information to uncover the hidden stories behind the trade through the 4 pillars of fundamentals, catalyst, sentiment, and technicals. All price action can be understood through the lens of these pillars, allowing for a holistic view that empowers better decision-making. Only by understanding markets can you beat them. Join our community today and start making sense of markets.
Let's get ready to rumble!
All right, there it goes. Chris, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Love the entrance there.
Awesome. I'm so excited. Got a lot to talk about over here. First, just want to let the audience know it's Story Trading. You just saw the intro there. What we do here is we holistically look at stocks. We look at fundamentals. We look at sentiment. We look at catalysts and technicals. And Rumble and CFVI, very interesting to us, especially in terms of sentiment. We've interviewed before the CEO of DWAC. We've interviewed the CEO of Fun, PHUN, and also Brad Pascal, the founder of AIAD, all those Trump-themed stocks. So we wanted to make sure to also get to you, save the best for last. So here we are. We got a bunch of categories of questions I'm looking forward to going through. We're going to talk a little bit about the SPAC, some politics, some all the different business segments you got going, some on operations and financials, and then we'll get to Q&A, audience Q&A. So definitely, if you're in the audience there, you can feel free to do the super chats on YouTube or Rumble Rant, and we'll get your question asked live on air. So, Chris, any opening words, or you want to jump right into it?
Let's jump right into it. Just happy to be here, and glad. I noticed that you've been following us for quite some time, so I felt like it would be great to jump on with you.
Great, sounds good. So, first, we're gonna talk about just some housekeeping stuff with the SPAC. There we go, SPAC stuff. All right, so you just did a press release recently. S4 effectiveness statement. There's going to be a vote on September 15th. It's taken quite a while, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but after that vote, you're going to be trading under your own ticker symbol, RUM. Is that how it works?
RUM. That's right.
RUM. Great. So anything we need to be aware of with that vote? How's that work? As soon as that vote's done, are we trading as RUM like the next day, or is there still more of a process? How's that happen?
Yeah, I'm not sure in the technicals of exactly how that works, so I'll leave that to the lawyers. I'm just really happy we're at this point right now, and we have that effective S4. I saw a lot of people pinging me like, when's the merger going to happen? When's going to happen? I don't know. I'm with you guys. Like I'm waiting patiently, just like everyone else. But just super happy we're over that hurdle. And now we're into the final stretch here.
Great. Thanks for that. If you can't answer anything, just let me know. But I would love to know what took so long. Are you able to, most SPACs, they announced their merger partner. Here it's been, like 10 months or so, right? Since it was announced. Any color you can give on, I wonder if there's politics involved. I don't know.
No, I can't really speak about that. It was, I would say this is pretty typical, but I didn't see any atypical things. It was just, the standard routine from as much as I know and from what I've been told. So it's just getting over that hurdle and making sure that we're ready and getting that in an effective state. And that's where we are. Okay. We're finally there.
fair to say at this point in terms of the SPAC process, it's smooth sailing from here as long as the vote goes well? You don't foresee any other stumbling blocks, or do you
Yeah,
still have more stumbling blocks?
yeah. I don't know what the technicals are and like the legal stuff on it, so I don't really want to speak too much about the SPAC. And as you know,
Okay,
there's lots of regulations around that, so I'm just gonna
sure.
stay kind of tight-lipped. But as far as I understand right now, is we have a vote on September 15th, and we'll see
Okay.
how that goes.
Okay, great. All right, I got one last question. I'm going to try to push you on, see if you can give me some color on. In the SPAC papers, I see that you get Rumble owners and yourself. You have lots of incentive if the stock price hits $15 and $17.50. And obviously, I'm sure you were part of those negotiations. I'm wondering if you can give a little color behind that thought process. Like, does that mean you think Rumble's worth at least 50 to 75% higher, or what kind of went into that thinking when you're negotiating these terms? If you can give us some color on it, I'd love that.
Yeah, so the way we looked at it is that the market's really going to determine what our value will be, and we felt the way I look at the market right now with the way we're growing, I don't know if there's been too many companies like us that have grown with the trajectory that we do have, and I felt and I feel like when you take a look at Rumble, and I think this is the most underappreciated thing about the company, is if you look at YouTube in the United States, they have what 190 million, 200 million MAUs. Twitter has like 60 million MAUs according to like 2019 filings, around there. I don't quote me on that. And then Rumble is reporting 35 million MAUs in the United States. Like that's over 15% of the US YouTube market share. That's maybe half or more of Twitter's. I just feel like this is such an underappreciated business right now, and I'm not sure why that is, but that's the way I feel. And when I look at those numbers and I look at what we're doing, and I'm not even factoring in the growth trajectory. Let's factor in that growth. You factor in that growth, then what does this look like in 2 years from now? What does it look like quarter to quarter? So I do feel that it's one of the more underappreciated parts of Rumbles to understand when we're looking at our MAUs in the United States and our MAUs in general. They're very, very English based MAUs, very heavy in the United States, Canada, and UK, very heavy US. And it's not like these MAUs are not like bloated with numbers in different countries. These MAUs are predominantly in the United States. And I think that's a really underappreciated thing. Everyone's like, oh, well, YouTube's got 2 billion MAUs, but how many do they have in US? They have like 190, 200 million, last I checked. And you got to compare apples to apples. And that's the way I look at Rumble. And I think that's a very underappreciated thing about this company. Not to mention, locals is not even in that data and like all this other stuff. So I do feel that we're sitting on something that's is in my opinion, very important and very underappreciated.
Okay, great. We'll definitely broach that topic of financials a little bit and try to dig into valuation. We'll get to that in a bit. First, I want to move on over to politics a little bit. All right. So it was interesting. Speaking of SPACs, nice transition from SPACs to politics. DWAC, I think, came before you, if I'm not mistaken. And we all saw what happened with that, right? Flew to like $175, and even now it's still valid at $30, 3 times the $10 floor usually for SPACs. And I'm wondering if you've had any thoughts as to, first of all, I'm wondering your thoughts on how that maybe played a role in going public via SPAC. Just like, oh, there's a great appetite here. Look what people are willing to pay for competition, to the establishment media sites. That's one question. And the other thing is, why do you think you guys haven't had that same kind of what we call a sentiment premium at StoryTrading, right? DWAC gets a huge sentiment premium. It's obviously worth a lot more than what you can calculate on paper because people just want to own the stock for philosophical or political reasons. Why do you think you haven't benefited from that yet?
So it didn't play a role at all in our decision process. Rumble the idea of taking Rumble public. It came well before the idea of Truth or any of that. We were looking to do that, even prior to. Uh, we've been looking at the idea of like going to the market for a long time. I've always dreamed of doing that. I also felt like it was an opportunity. Rumble grew all on its own organically with not any outside investment until Peter Thiel came in. So it was in a unique position to go to the market and not get diluted by a lot of investors in any meaningful way, where we could give up very small. We could give up a portion of the companies to the public markets that can be part of this. So it was never. It always felt like the right thing to do. I also felt that in order to compete in this ecosystem, if you're going to compete against YouTube and you're going to compete against Google, you need to play in their playground, and you need to raise a good amount of money in order to really go after them. So that's what we did. I felt that you can't, as a private company, it's very difficult to go and compete against $1 trillion public entities. If we're going to take these guys on, and we're going to take them on our ideals, then we need to really get the public behind us, and get the users behind us, and get the community behind us, and do this all together, not as a single private entity that wouldn't, without the support of the public. I don't think you can take on these massive entities.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. Sounds good. And are you a little disappointed though? I don't know. Like, do you want? I sit here and wonder. I'm just for disclosure. I am a CFVI holder. Hopefully, Rumble holder. But I sit there and wonder, like, why does DWAC get this huge premium when you guys, I think, have a much stronger business model, probably much better growth in financials, and it kind of plays in the same space, in terms of free speech or big media, big tech alternative. And I get frustrated with that personally sometimes. Like, why don't we get that premium? I don't know. Have you heard from anyone about that, or do you have some of your own thoughts about that?
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. All I can do is just talk about the facts and our MAUs and the growth that we're having. And now we're working really hard on the cloud. That's that is one of the core functions right now that we're doing. We are the cloud provider for Truth and Tim Pool, and hopefully many others in the future. So we're looking to get that out in the next year or two here. But I don't know. I don't have that. That is completely, your guess is as good as mine when it comes to that. I really, really love what we have. I wouldn't change a thing. I think that we're up against a lot, and we're just going to keep on fighting regardless. I'm not going to get phased by something. I'm not going to look at the stock price and let that phase me much or at all. I think that if I get kind of into the weeds of that, then it'll take my focus off what we're really doing here. And what we really need to do is to really compete against these behemoths and kind of push back against them and keep our heads down and just keep working.
Great. I see a bunch of questions coming in on the Rumble chat. We're going to save those questions for the end. If you want a better chance of getting your question asked, definitely you can, on the website, I guess you can submit a Rumble rant. We'll make sure that gets asked on air. Otherwise, we will go through some of those chats if we have time at the end. All right, got a couple interesting political type of questions for you. One that's been bothering me for a long time, or not bothering me, but the top concern I've had, I think the whole thing that's got me interested in this space, and maybe it was a motivating factor for you too, was seeing Parler banned a few years ago from basically Amazon and the Apple Store and everything. Like, that's when I got really motivated about all this, and I'm like, wow, I gotta invest in the space somehow. But I always wonder you're building your own servers and you're building a lot of your own technology things, but can't just Apple or Google ban you tomorrow?
Yeah. So are we speaking about the Play stores?
Yeah, I'm talking about the apps in the stores.
There's the infrastructure side. There's a lot of stuff to look at when you come to this, but you're right. That moment when Parler got deplatformed, I think was the most critical moment in time for the internet. I think that's when the internet took a turn for the worse. It was just an incredibly horrible moment to see what everybody that started 20 years ago, one of the founders of Reddit, believed in that free and open internet so much. I forget his name now. But he's no longer here. He passed away. But like a whole bunch of these internet entrepreneurs were so into the free and open internet, and to watch that happen was insane. So one of the things that we did, since we started really early back in 2013, is we never depended on cloud. We always kind of built things on servers and bare metal. And then when Peter came to invest, he's like, "How much can you scale this thing?" And I'm like, "Well, we got the team to scale it, and we want to scale it. Just requires some more capital." And I remember having that conversation with him, and he, that's what we did. We put a lot of focus on that. Now we're scaling things like Truth Social on our cloud, and we've really made a lot of progress in moving a lot of things on Rumble onto our own cloud in our own hardware that we now own in data centers across the U.S. and Canada. So that's been a huge achievement, and I think we're kind of past. We're getting close to a point in time where that might not be a concern in the very near future. Now you mentioned another thing, that's the opposite side of the spectrum. So now we were just looking at the infrastructure side, which are the pipes and how things are serving on the internet. But then there's the other side, getting on the consumer side, getting into the apps, getting onto the TV, like the Apple TV. There's all these different choke points that there are. Luckily, and this was like by pure coincidence, you're seeing a lot of pressure right now on these companies when it comes to antitrust. Huge amounts of pressure. The DOJ is after them. It's bipartisan on the political side. This is not just like a one-party thing. These companies have enormous control, and they kind of saw that with Parler, and they're seeing that with other circumstances. And there's a ton of pressure now on these companies not to, play inappropriately and use their power and control to play inappropriately. So because of all the governmental pressure that there is right now, I don't think that, that's going to be a concern. I think that we'll be treated fairly. And then luckily, this is total coincidence, is that we also sued Google for antitrust.
Right.
For preferencing YouTube. And we did that like 5 days, like January 11th, 1 day after Parler was deplatformed, was when we filed the lawsuit. That's pure coincidence. We've been planning that for, many months prior to that. Although I would say prior to even us exploding in growth, we've been planning on that antitrust case. And that antitrust case has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with a lot of cute cat and dog videos, and it's there for you to see. You can read the complaint, but it's pretty comprehensive, and that's an antitrust complaint. So there's just a lot of this antitrust stuff happening in the market that I think really puts it really forces these companies to behave properly right now and to play by the rules, and not to make some rash decisions that are inappropriate. So I don't really.
What if they do though? What if they make a rash? I mean, I see a lot of rash things happening right now every day in the government. I'm not gonna start that, but
yeah, and you can kind of This is probably one of the main reasons why we don't deep link at this point right now. Is that we want to be. A lot of our traffic happens on the web and on desktop. It wouldn't have like a major impact to Rumble in that sense, because a lot of people are viewing and consuming this content on their mobile phones through browser or through desktop. It's not entirely app. Obviously, there's a lot consuming on Roku. There's a lot consuming on Apple TV. So it's really getting distributed, and I'm not too concerned on the app side, because which I don't believe will happen. I don't think, that if they were to do that, just think about our antitrust case in that case, like that wouldn't bode well at this point in time for them to make a move like that. And I don't fear it one bit, but if they were, what's the consequence? Most of the viewership is still happening on the mobile phones right now, through the browsers. So it's not a weak point for us.
Okay. Like if that were to happen, would you sue right away if they kicked you off?
Oh, immediately. Yeah. We already are soon.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. I got I think a tough, not a tough question, but you already know that this is a tough situation you're probably dealing with. But just the policy that you have of not censoring free speech, I think you're going by basically what's legal, right? If it's constitutionally legal, I think you're allowing that speech. Maybe you have some other things in the policy, but that policy is lending itself, not by design, but I guess accidentally, to creating a niche of just one side of the political spectrum joining you guys and pigeonholing you as right or conservative. All the kooks that get banned everywhere come to Rumble. How do you counteract that? How do you make broader appeal in this type of environment?
So, I don't believe our policy forces a specific niche. In fact, I don't buy into that at all. Our policy has been very similar in terms of the spirit of how we moderate content. It hasn't changed really at all in any meaningful way since the day we came about as a company. So to say that, like, prior to 2020, we didn't really have anything politics on our platform whatsoever, with the exception of a couple media companies that you could say are more on the left side, if anything. But like, the policies are never written in a way to be left or right. That's just the nature of the time right now, and I guess what the media wants you to believe. But that, the idea that you can't have speech about politics or speech about anything, that political speech these days is just, that's not a right wing or a left wing thing. And we have a lot of left wing people on our platform every day saying that, like Glenn Greenwald, for example. Like, there are Tulsi Gabbard's on Rumble as well. So I don't buy into the narrative that our policies, go towards any specific group. And I
mean, not by design, but in practice. Like today, who did you get? You got Steven Crowder, right? Steven Crowder came over to you because he got banned from YouTube, and you had like over 90,000 concurrent views. That's great for your business.
But that's because YouTube decided to move their platform to a specific side.
I got it. But
we stayed in the center. We're right in the middle, and the whole market decided, hey, we're going to go over here. And then what? Rumble just sits there and just collects.
Right. But I have friends and family who are on the other side of the political spectrum as me. And if you say Rumble, they're like, oh, that's where all the right wing people and the kooks go. I'm not going there. Like, how do we get them over? I mean, I would love to see the day that not only is Steven Crowder there, but I'd like to see Don Lemon's programs on Rumble. I'd like to see everyone there. I'd like to see basically YouTube the way it was, 10, 15 years ago. That's what I'd like to see. And I don't know if that's your vision for it. But you know what? This gets us actually right into the next segment. So let's just roll right into that and we'll continue this. So we're going to talk about the different products you have. So we're talking about the app now, rumble.com. So on that point, like, what's your vision for Rumble? Like, do you want Don Lemon there? Do we want to be what YouTube was 10 years ago, or do you have a different vision for it?
Absolutely. I have, I don't care who comes on the platform. I want to be completely neutral. And whether it's Don Lemon or whether it's whoever you want it to be, it doesn't, to me, I'm not going to sit there and look and say, hey, I don't like you. I don't like you. Leave.
Right. But how do we get them?
There lays the secret sauce, right? How do we do that? How do we get everybody on there? That's something I'm working on. And I think what we've done is this year specifically, we've really kind of started to do that. Particularly in the first quarter and in the second quarter, what we noticed this year, and you're a perfect example, is that we started attracting like the finance community, the crypto community. We have a lot of crypto people on Rumble now, and there's a little community on Rumble that's like specific to the crypto community. And it kind of happened around the Bitcoin conference, when YouTube decided to pull the rug on the Bitcoin conference live stream. And then all of a sudden the Bitcoiners were like, okay, well, even YouTube doesn't like Bitcoin now. So time to go to Rumble. And that opened up a whole different genre for us. And I don't believe that's a very political genre. And, there is maybe some political leanings, but generally speaking, we started to see different people. And then in February, Susan Sarandon tweeted a video on Rumble to go watch. Susan Sarandon, she's not on the right. I would say she's activist left, if anything. And Oliver Stone's movie came onto Rumble. So we started seeing some of this happen in terms of it pulling people from different segments.
Right.
But like, yeah, definitely. I want to see people from all sides of the spectrum. I don't want to lean any specific way. I want to be as neutral as possible, and I want to get into different categories. I really like I like gaming. Gaming is something that I think that, you know, we have an opportunity. If we make some tweaks to our system, we can really compete in that space. In gaming, a lot of the gamers are having a lot of dissatisfaction with the current platform. So I think there's an opportunity for us to make some inroads into gaming. And the younger generation as well. We really need to go into the younger generation. I have a few ideas, and hopefully a few of those will come to fruition in the near future. But like, it all starts with, like, in my opinion, going after specific talent in certain areas and bringing in someone really large in each area that will attract a lot of other people in that segment. Right. The Bitcoin conference was one perfect example. You know, Dan Bongino coming on the Rumble it was the very first example on the political side that attracted a lot of people around him at the same time. So we want to keep executing on that strategy and keep bringing on some big creators in different verticals and keep expanding that. The diversification of like content is key. That's key for driving our numbers up, because we get into different areas. We grow our MAUs. We also grow our engagement and watch time, because now they can find all different sorts of content on the platform. This is a key component to our growth. And it's like the one I am particularly most focused on right now, is really bringing on a lot of different creators from a lot of different segments.
Okay, and do you think critical mass has something to do with that? Like, is there a point at which the far left says, you know what, like, I don't want to be associated with those kooks the way they look at it, but they have so many people on there, I want to be able to influence. I want my message to come out. You know, do you think there's a critical breaking point where they're going to say, I have no choice but to be there? Do you envision that happening?
Yes. And I think we're getting very close. I think we're there now. I just think people haven't realized that yet.
Do you see signs of that now? Maybe with the creators are signing up, do you see that some people may be hesitant before, or like?
Yeah. So the whole thing is like, think about Steven Crowder today. Okay. What is he doing daily on the live stream on YouTube? I don't know what the number is, but like, he does a significant amount. And then he comes to Rumble. I remember like a year ago when he was suspended on YouTube for a couple of weeks, he was able to like do 60-70% of his audience. And now when he came to Rumble, he was doing more today than he typically does on his live stream on YouTube. That's a moment to understand.
He was doing more today on Rumble than he typically does on YouTube, you said?
Yeah, I think, I believe so. He was doing
I don't know,
over 90,000 today.
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
That's a big number. I think he does like, 50, 60 on average on YouTube. I don't know. So, but like, I think it's getting to a point now where like someone like him is now thinking like, holy shit, I don't really need YouTube as much as I thought I did. Maybe he's thinking that, but we need to get to that point. And I think we're getting there, and, we're getting there quickly. I've seen some tweets by like Jackson Hinkle today. I think that was a great tweet. Let me pull that up. It was I definitely retweeted it, but he said, and I think this sums it up really well. Steven Crowder got banned for 14 days on YouTube and is now streaming on Rumble instead. He just passed 90,000 live viewers. The age of YouTube's hegemony is over, and we're living in a multipolar social media world. I think that kind of really sums it up. We're at a point now where if you're a large creator and you have audience, YouTube needs you. You don't need YouTube. And I think creators are going to slowly start figuring that out very soon. And it should be companies like Rumble and companies like YouTube and Twitch fighting for you. That's the way it should be. And we should be doing the best we possibly can for the creator, and the one that does the best by their creator should win.
Okay. Great, man. I realize I have so many questions. I got to move quicker. We're not going to get to it. So let me add on this topic. the Rumble app, right? Rumble.com. What's your vision for that? Because I have the app. I've seen the version changes that are going on. And listen, as a user, I'm like, just give me YouTube without censorship, right? But I see you're doing some different things. It looks like maybe you're bringing in some like TikTok type of functionality into there. Like, what's your vision for the app? Are you trying to be YouTube with no censorship? Or you're trying to do something completely different? You're trying to get more TikTok. Can you give us your vision for Rumble.com and the app?
So we have a lot of work to do. And pretending we don't is not a good thing. We know that we have a lot of work to do. YouTube's had 15 years. Google has 180,000 employees. We're less than 200 people. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of updates to make. We have just to get to a place where I feel comfortable, the experience is good. Is going to take time, and that's what we're working like super hard at. We just launched DVR playback in live streaming. It sounds like such an inconsequential feature, but such an important feature to be able to rewind in your live streaming, and deploying that on an app and deploying that on web, deploying that on a TV is like a lot of work. There's just so much stuff here. Plus, we're building the cloud. Reminder: the worst part, or the best part, however you want to look at it, is that while we're doing all these features and everything, we don't get the benefit of just sitting on Amazon, where we don't have to think about that. We're building a whole cloud. We're putting in the wires in servers and connecting them to every home. That's what we're doing at the same time. We have to worry about buying servers at the same time. So it's like it's a bigger haul than most people think because of the cloud side. But like you can see all the progress that we've made. We stood up Truth flawlessly. Rumble runs, really good. Obviously, product needs to get better, and we're working on that. And we're gonna keep plowing through it one by one. I can tell you right now, the next major things coming out are going to be like notifications in app, an update in Android app. We're gonna a major update on the Roku app. We're chat moderation on the chat. These are all super high priority features that we're all working on now that we got live streaming for free. Now we got DVR playback done. Now we're moving to these things, but there's a lot of them. It's a never ending list of things that we need to do just to catch up. But in terms of vision, we want to make a platform that allows you to communicate to the rest of the world, without being censored. Obviously, that should be an obvious thing. I shouldn't even have to say that in this day and world. Like that shouldn't even be part of the vision, because it should just be a given right. To be able to create independence and create an economy around you where you can create independence, so that you can monetize it, communicate, and really not depend on any other places to get it done. So we really want to do more than YouTube, and that was the whole purpose of the locals transaction. We want to build that creator economy for every single creator, so that they can create independence and own their data in a way that you can't own data and own your content and your profile on YouTube.
Yeah, I do want to come to locals next. You had some big news, but just if you can summarize that last question, like the vision. More like YouTube, more like TikTok, or your own kind of direction in between?
It'll be in our own direction. We want to create the tools that allow you to create an independent creator economy around yourself. We obviously, the mission of the company right now is to protect the free and open internet. That is first and foremost, unfortunately, because the rest of the internet doesn't care for that anymore. But in terms of the vision of the app, we want to be something different that allows you, think of it like, blockchain. For the whole idea of blockchain and Bitcoin and everything is decentralized. Imagine having your tools on Rumble and locals that are decentralized in the aspect where you own the data, you own your subscribers, you own that. That's yours. If we ever canceled you, you walk away with that. We're never going to cancel you, but like the idea is you own that data. That creates true decentralization around video and the creator economy. It doesn't need to be Bitcoin. It needs to be that you own it. That's the key.
Okay. Just want to point out, like I've done live streaming before on YouTube and Rumble when we interviewed DWAC and Fun. You probably know these guys, Randall Crowder and Patrick Orlando. Anyway, and the viewership was almost evenly split. It was always a little more on Rumble than YouTube. Right now, we got 450 people on Rumble, and unless my stats are wrong, only 8 people on YouTube. So that's pretty fascinating. And hey, let's get it to 1,000. So spread the word, guys. We got another 25 minutes to go on this interview. So grab that Rumble link, let your friends know, social media, or you can just give them the link, storytrading.com/Rumble, and I'll forward them here. So that's amazing. People are choosing Rumble much more than YouTube today on this 456 now and counting. So, all right, you're talking about on locals. You had a press release the other day, a very impressive 400% year-over-year increase in transaction value. Tell us what pretty impressive in terms of the finances. I'm curious to know if you can also tell us like what percent of that you get to keep.
So there's a lot of facets to locals, but when you look at that $7.5 million of transaction value, the way you need to look at that is that, obviously the creators get a line share of that. That's what we generated on locals through subscriptions, tippings, and movie content plus is what we call it. So people purchasing movies and stuff like that in the second quarter. And there's different rev shares for all of that. So, that'll be reflected in our financials in the future.
Okay.
But that the part to take home with that is that's what locals contributed to the creator economy to a very large extent, which I think is quite amazing.
In terms of its financial contribution,
that's no Rumble, by the way. That's zero Rumble. That is just like locals.
Right. So like what's financially, like what's growing faster for you? Is it the on locals or is it the Rumble? Terms of money, in terms of either revenue or profits, however you want to look at it. What's the fastest growing part of your business right now?
Well, it depends what are you looking financially, or are you looking like on MAUs and users? Everything is growing, as you can see. You can see the numbers on Rumble, they're growing like crazy. That has impact, obviously. They play totally different roles. Like one is a subscription thing, and the other one, it's your subscription community at locals, and Rumble is like, think of it as like a funnel. Rumble's the top of the funnel. It's like that free TV for everybody. Everybody gets to watch us. Everyone gets to talk to us. But let's say they really like Ben and they really like story trading. They can go to locals and have a personal community experience. And if you'd like, you could put a fee to that, so you don't have to create your own paywall. So like the bottom of the funnel would be locals. Growth, on Rumble and growth on locals are insane and different. There's different levers that play to growth different ways. But like generally speaking, as a whole, like I like to look at it as one thing now, not just two separate businesses, because they're really not. They both go hand in hand. And you can see the growth has been phenomenal on all. I feel like everything has been growing crazy over the last year or 2 years.
Okay. You also have your advertising center we'll talk about in a second. You just had an announcement, or no, you teased an announcement maybe. The cloud services, parallel economy. We'll talk about all those in just a second. But between all of these, like let's say 2 years out, or whatever the length of term you want to use, like which one of these do you think will be the biggest money maker for you, or the biggest profit maker for you? Where's your biggest opportunity in terms of, I'm talking about from a shareholder perspective right now, right? Someone's a shareholder in a company. They want the profits to grow so the stock price can go up. Which one of these businesses 2, 3, 4, 5 years out do you think will be the biggest contributor to growth and profits?
It's a good question. When it comes to Rumble, obviously, I think advertising is going to be a huge segment. Let's look at Rumble and locals and look at cloud differently, because cloud is like, can be a whole different market. It's a whole different thing. When you look at Rumble, you're going to have programmatic ads. Think pre-roll. That's pretty basic. I think that's going to be the smallest segment of revenue for Rumble. Then I think the largest portion could be are going to be like sponsorships and sponsored ads with creators, where advertisers, can purchase ads directly with creators through our systems. And then I think the second largest portion will be tips and subscriptions. So, 20, 30%, 30% on subscriptions. This is just an estimation, and obviously, I'm not sure exactly, but I would say you're looking at sponsored as being like the biggest portion, programmatic being the smallest, and subscriptions being probably right in between there, as in terms of the revenue for the business of the Rumble Locals portion. Right now, when you look at YouTube, it's very programmatic. It's all driven mostly by programmatic, from what I understand. I don't get to see behind the scenes, so I don't know for sure. But I do think it's driven entirely by programmatic. I think the future of creators is going to be more driven by sponsorships and by subscriptions, and you kind of see that in Asia, and I think Rumble will kind of jump to that faster than kind of YouTube working their way to that. So I think we'll have a competitive advantage by jumping to that. I think our product Locals, as a subscription product, just crushes what YouTube's doing with their join button. I think there's so much more, and it beats you at Twitch. I think it's way better personally, by having that extra community, and I think we'll have a competitive advantage there as we kind of jump ahead of them in the coming years. And then you have the cloud business, and we're not putting any projections on that right now because it's we're still building it out. But I think that's just an absolutely
I got a question about the cloud I've always been unsure about. When you say cloud, we know you have that relationship with Truth Social where the videos, it has your little logo on there. But when you say cloud, are you talking about like the video hosting, or are you talking about just like website or app hosting, or both?
Both. So we're doing the both for Truth. So Truth is running a video streaming product, which is a separate product. I don't call that cloud. When I say cloud, they're running on our version of AWS.
I see. Okay, so that's what you mean when you say cloud, and the video hosting. What do you call that product?
We want to go head to head with AWS. We want to go head to head with Azure. And nice. The video hosting product is more like a Brightcove, which we already had for a while. You can compare that to Brightcove or JW Player, where the cloud business will be more like AWS. And the reason why this is so complementary for Rumble, it's not an easy thing to do, but think about it. Amazon bought Twitch. Why? That's a good question. Why did Amazon buy Twitch? What does Google have? Google has YouTube. When you have a video vehicle as your main consumer product, you drive so much bandwidth, so much storage. You have all this excess capacity that you can go sell as cloud. So like Microsoft has Xbox, Windows Update that drives an enormous amount of storage and enormous amount of bandwidth. Google has YouTube that drives a lot of this capacity. Rumble has rumble.com that drives a lot of this capacity. So we feel like we can get into the market and offer a product. And we think the exact same thing is happening in the cloud business as is happening in the video business. All these companies are going to pick a side. Well, we're just staying in the middle. And everybody that wants a neutral company to work with are going to come work with us. Like, for example, Truth came to us because they know we're not going to take a political stance. Think about universities. Think about churches, synagogues, all these businesses out there that are not going to feel safe working with the incumbents because they have taken stances. And we believe that market opportunity is enormous right now.
Yeah. Has the cloud, besides for Truth Social, is it officially launched? Can other people sign up for that, or is it just Truth right now?
No, that was we took Truth up flawlessly onto our cloud, and we are not open to the public. We've made some. We've done those deals because they were very important to get done. They're very big. We did Tim Pools as well. And we've made certain accommodations to them for specific reasons to help them. And it's not released to the public right now, but we're looking at releasing it to the public in a year or two. I'm hopeful by the end of 2023 but realistically 2024. But the good thing is that it's already being used, it's already there. We got to get all of Rumble, all the locals onto everything that we have already, and then we got to start building that interface out to go sell it, and then we take it to market.
Okay, great. Last question in this segment. Anything you want to add about parallel economy? I think you did have a press release a couple weeks ago. If you can give us an update on how that's going.
So Parallel Economy is a company that we took a stake in because we think it's very important to have a payment processor that is uncancelable and not dependent on any of the big tech. That was started by Dan Bongino, and we've taken a stake in that. It's a passive stake, but we are using it on Rumble and we are using it on locals. We're still moving. It takes a lot of time to develop everything and move everything over, but it's definitely something that we feel very strongly in being a part of, and it's very important to have in this ecosystem. That's one other choke point that we wanted to have covered. As you know, servers and cloud, you have payments and processing, and then now you got to have consumer devices is like the final hurdle that we need to make sure that we can defend against.
Okay, great. Let's move on to our next segment, operations. All right, so check it out. We've been keeping track of your progress. You just did a press release here that you're at 44 million MAUs for last quarter. So I've been tracking all of this, and
one you got a couple of mistakes, but one mistake. June was 52.
June was okay. Great, I'll take that. There you go. That looks much better. Okay.
The average for the quarter was 44.
Average is 44, so I'll have to adjust April and May. Let's see by.
So we released the peak. It was in June, and we released that in our deck with the
good.
presentations.
Well, that looks much better now, Chris. I was getting a little bit worried that you guys have plateaued and you're having some growing pains. I like this chart much better. So you already addressed that first question, but I'm still going to ask the second question. Are you having growing pains or tech issues? I feel like I've seen some of that in the app. I feel like the app has kind of slowed down my phone. It was like I don't know, like some background.
The iOS app.
Yeah. Yeah, like if I'm going through like the videos and I'm swiping up, and I'm looking in the feed, I'm just like, swiping, and it like preloads videos in the background. After like go to like 10 of them or something, like things start freezing up and my phone slows down. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just my phone, but I'm wondering if you can comment to if you are having growing pains like that you're aware of.
No, not on the iOS app. The Android app, yes, but not on the iOS app. The iOS app
might just be my phone. I mean, my phone is a hot mess.
Yeah, no, but I've gone down 20, 30 videos now. It's not slowing down. I've never seen the iOS app have problems like that. Maybe to update it, see if there's an updated version for you.
Yeah, no, I just might need a new phone. I'm always near full memory. That might be what it is. So, okay, that's good to hear. But I imagine there are, tech issues. And listen, I know you said it, what's the budget and the tech staff is people don't understand to build like technology. It looks smooth and easy as a user, but on the back end, it's extremely difficult. Like I've tried building apps and, it's extremely difficult going up against bigger competitors who have much, much larger staff. People just don't get what goes into it. Just making one little feature work really smoothly, you might need one full-time employee to do that right, or maybe a team of them at YouTube. I don't know. So just wanted to know your strategy of how to deal with that, given that you only have less than 200 employees compared to your competition. Yeah,
so that's a really good point, because when we have a tech problem, it could be code, and I wish it was always code, because that's the easiest, and that's what every company out there, when you're like Clubhouse, you only have to worry about code. They sit on top of Agora that does all their streaming, and AWS that does their hosting. They don't have to worry about any of the technology. They're essentially not really even building the technology. They're just doing code for an interface that uses other technologies. With Rumble, we're building our live streaming. We got code of the live streaming software. We got code of the site. And then we got the setup of the hardware. Like the whole thing could go wrong. And like, you don't know where it is on that whole stack. So it's a very different environment. We can't rely on like Agora to do our live streaming or AWS to do our hosting. So we have a lot more points of failure that we have to perfect over, a period of time. And I would say like we've gotten to a point of stability right now. A couple of months ago, we made a lot of moves onto our own hardware, and we, ran into a lot of problems when doing that. But like I think we're at a really good point right now, and in the next couple of months we should be even at a better point. But yeah, there's definitely growing pains. It's not appreciated like how much we're actually doing with so little people. This is not. It's not a business like Clubhouse where we have to build it. We can just build an interface and make it look really good. And the interface is the last priority to us right now because like we need to get everything underneath the interface to work flawlessly. And then we get hit on the fact that our interface doesn't look so good. And I totally get that. And I understand that. But it's because we're working on everything that you can't see. And everything that you can't see is everything that most companies don't have. Parler didn't have to do that. Truth doesn't have to do that because we do the cloud. Like no one has to do that. That's our job. And we have to do that. And we have to stand up the internet to a certain extent so that people can communicate and they can have a voice.
Yeah, I've got interdimensional dog, just a comment here. He says, I can live with some technical issues. Free speech is much more important. So last question on operations here. In terms of hiring staff, qualified staff, I just want to know, like, politically, is that difficult, right?
No. This is definitely one of the really cool things about Rumble is that we attract amazing talent. That talent is willing to work harder, more, and for cheaper, just because they are so. They believe in what we're doing. They believe in the whole team here believes in what we're doing so passionately. It's amazing. It's like the greatest thing. And like, I talk to people that come from these big tech companies and they tell me, what, it's really refreshing to come here because like I was at my other company and the first thing they ask me is how I'm feeling. And then the whole meeting is about how you're feeling. And it's not about the product. I get to come here and I get to work on something amazing. And I believe in what we're doing. Yeah. It's like a total different thing. So I think we're getting the best. We're getting, obviously we want to pay them more as we grow and we want to pay them more than anywhere because like they deserve it.
But you can't yet, right? Like, let's say you can't really compete with packages that YouTube's given at this point, can you?
I think we're going to be in position to do that very soon. But like definitely with this raise, that's going to be extremely helpful. And it's incredible to see what happens behind the doors here and how amazing this team is. I cannot speak about, and I cannot give them enough credit of how amazing they are and how unbelievably passionate they are. We have the team that is fighting for the internet every day, all day, 24 hours a day.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear.
Not a moment they're not on it.
That's awesome. That's what I wanted to hear. That's what I was hoping to hear. Have you poached any? I don't want to say poached. Have you gotten any top people from YouTube coming to your company?
I don't want to say specifically, but I can tell you that we have a lot of people from a lot of the big tech companies applying, already working here. And it is a lot bigger of an exodus, and they're losing their best. I'm telling you, these guys are the best.
All right, guys, listen, we have 500 cyber sleuthers here right now. Tonight, your homework, get on LinkedIn and find out who used to work at YouTube and they're now working at Rumble. I want to know which top guys Chris has gotten to work for him. Let's find that out. That's pretty cool. All right, so let's move to our final segment here, financials. All right, let's see if we can do this quickly. Man, this is a tough one, I think, from an investor perspective. Obviously, I think a lot of the people invested in this are in it for the sentiment reasons. Maybe they believe you guys will be successful long term, and they just want to support Rumble. But you've alluded to this, right, in terms of the capital required to compete with the big guys, and your task maybe even a little bit harder because you got to build everything from scratch. So I don't know. What's your approach to that long term? So I don't know how much you know about Wall Street and financing and these sharks out there, but we want to protect the little guys. I would hope you want the little guys protected, and we'd want to, if you need to raise a lot of additional capital at some point, which you probably do. Have you thought about your strategy, how to do that to protect the little guys and protect retail investors here from dilution? Like death
Yeah,
spiral financing and that kind of stuff.
yeah. Well, one, I think a lot of people in the chat asked about like the 17 and a half and the 15. We're in a lockup period, and like so that there's that. So that obviously there's a lockup, which I think a lot of people don't realize. But two is I don't want to run this tech company like the way Google runs theirs. I don't want to have 100,000 employees. I think that's crazy. I think Twitter having what 8,000 is crazy. Look what we have accomplished. We have 15% plus of the MAUs in June of YouTube, and we have less than 200 people. Just think about that for a second. And we're not just building a YouTube competitor; we're building the whole cloud underneath it with less than 200 people. If we can do that with less than 200 people, how many more do we really need? Like,
Okay, all right.
at the end of
Why
the
don't you
day,
tell me? That was that was one of my questions. How many do you need have you
you
modeled that
def
out? How
you
many do you need to get to break even?
yeah. So, and I can't get into that right now, but I can tell you what I can tell you is that I'm not going to do it the way they did it. I'm going to show the market how inefficient the market is. I think these tech companies are extremely inefficient. I think that they've lost the passion behind the staff. I think we have that, and I can't wait to show the market what we can do with what we have and the team that we have over the coming years. Remember, Rumble's first outside capital was when Peter Thiel came in. That's what, May of 2021. We've barely had time to operate with capital. It's been like just a little over a year now. And you have your ramp up with hiring and everything. It takes like 6 months to get all these people on board that you need to have. So I think we're in a position to do really well and do it a lot differently. You hear Elon Musk talk about it all the time, like on Twitter. You don't need to have 8,000 people. The first day, he's gonna cut that. Like, you don't. That's bullshit. That people that tell you need hundreds of thousands of people and multiple billions of dollars of investment. I don't look at the market like that. I think that we can accomplish significantly more on less people. And I think that the amount of the money that we're raising right now is sufficient to get us over to get where we need to go.
And what is that to get you to break even?
I am hopeful that we're doing a $300 million SPAC and a $100 million pipe, so it's roughly a $400 million raise for the dilution that we put out there. I believe that we can get that's enough capital for us to get to a place to sustain on ourselves.
I would love to see that. That's great. Recently, you had a filing that said, "Hey, your valuation is kind of double now." I think you initially said it's like 2.1 billion, but now you said, "Hey, because of our user growth, it's really worth like 4 or so billion." I'm just wondering, in those kind of calculations, have you taken into account how well you're monetizing compared to YouTube? Not just the user count, but how how your ability to actually take those dollars per user, and you're going to be doing your own advertising center. Like, how's that impact that?
Yeah, so we're going to need our own advertising center to get that ARPU up. Like, without that, you can't really compete on that. So we need to do that. Those are the things. These are the critical things that we need to do. The critical things we need to do in the next couple of years. Obviously, get the cloud up is huge, and that's a whole different revenue bucket. But the other critical thing is that we need the advertising center there so that we can bring in more revenue for the creators so they can make more money. And we need to get our KPIs up more, and not just users, but consumption. We need a lot of consumption. That means diversification of content. So the investment that we're looking to do with it's in our investor deck, our presentation deck, is that we want to put a lot of money into acquiring talent so that we can bring in more users and more content in diversified areas. Not in just one segment, lots of segments. That will drive the KPIs, drive consumption, drive more viewership. I'm sure, at this point, one of the biggest things that we get as a complaint is that, hey, I can't find my how-to video on Rumble. I have to go to YouTube to go get it. I don't want to go to YouTube. So we really need to diversify the content. We need to spend a lot of money on getting a lot of different content so that we can meet the needs of the consumer on the content side. 2, we need to build that advertising ecosystem. That advertising ecosystem will drive that RPU. The consumption drives more consumption, means more revenue through the advertising ecosystem. So those 2 things need to happen to really kind of move that the ARPU up. And then 3 is infrastructure, which we already said, and 4 is then we start looking at different markets. We want to go into like markets like Brazil, like we've started to wade into a little bit. We want to start tapping into international markets. But in order to really succeed on that ARPU in the United States specifically, we need to drive that consumption up, and we need to drive that advertising center.
Great. We're coming up we're a little over time, so just going to wrap it up here. The best thing I heard out of all that is you have a plan to hopefully get to break even with just 400 million. They're approaching a business a little bit differently, exposing the inefficiencies of big tech. From an investor point of view, I hope you succeed. That's really great stuff. I just want to ask this one final question from the audience. By the way, the viewership keeps going up throughout the show. We're at a peak now on Rumble, 515 viewers. Ricky Scott, I just went out for a second, but Ricky Sky, he asked something about Elon Musk. Is there anything you said? Do you know Elon Musk? Have you ever talked to him?
No, I haven't spoken to Elon Musk.
You haven't? I'm shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I am really shocked. Obviously, with his interest in making Twitter free speech, I would have naturally assumed that he reached out to you guys. And have you? I mean, that would be great. I don't know. It seemed like I would love to see him as an investor in Rumble. That would be wild. Let's make it happen. All right. Anything you want to close with? Any closing comments, Chris?
No, I just one of the things I like to do is I know you're one of the early adopters in the finance community to come to Rumble, and I think it's really important that we support Rumble creators. Thank you for being on Rumble and bringing on your show on Rumble. It's a pleasure to talk to you and your audience, and I look forward to seeing you guys grow and being a powerhouse creator on Rumble in the many years to come.
Thank you. That's awesome. I just want to point out your onboarding team was awesome. And I'm just a little guy, and they give me so much attention, helping me to create the account there, and to all our YouTube videos come over to Rumble. It's very, very easy. So if you're a creator, you should do it. You have nothing to lose, and you get lots more views. So that's really awesome. Chris, thank you so much for joining, and everyone else here. Lots of great content on the video. This is going to be available for replay at rumble.com and on YouTube. Let's spread the word and get this video out to as many people tonight and tomorrow, and help those retail investors understand the story much more. Thank you, Chris, so much for your time.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Take care. We'll see you again, hopefully in the future soon.
You bet.
Yep. Bye-bye.